Welcome into OutKick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis, and let me go ahead and give you this right out of the gate, some Dixie Vodka. I am headed out of town tomorrow, and so I won't be here on Friday, which is usually when I tell you to get ready for the weekend with some Dixie Vodka. Raise a glass for these guys because they refused to listen to cancel culture. They wanted them to change the name of their vodka because it happens to have the word Dixie. Hello, they're based in Charleston, South Carolina. They are the South's liquor. You're going to love it. You're going to love them. You are going to have a better time watching your favorite team play in the NFL or in college football down the stretch run of the season or in the bowl games. And all you need to do is raise a glass for Dixie Vodka, like I do every single weekend. So, I appreciate all of you. Thursday Night Football, the final Thursday Night Football of the year. Chargers against the Raiders. And I got a deal for you. I got an incredible deal for you. Bet $5. And if Justin Herbert throws a touchdown, you win $75. That's a 15-1 payout. $5 returns 15-1 payout for Justin Herbert throwing a touchdown. It's simple. It's easy. He's going to do it like he's done it all year long. Get hooked up now. By the way, Fanduel.com/Clay. That's Fanduel.com/Clay. Also want to tell all you guys out there that you should be watching Thursday Night Football and you should be signing up in Tennessee, Virginia, Michigan, Iowa, Indiana, Illinois, West Virginia, Colorado, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. That's Fanduel.com/Clay. $5 bet for new users returns $75, and you will be glad that you did it when you do. All right, a lot of different things to get into today, but let's start here. The Auburn coaching search is in danger of coming completely off the rails, much like what happened with Tennessee when the hire of Greg Schiano was attempted. Let's go back in time if you are not that familiar with what's going on here. Auburn, $21.7 million to Gus Malzahn. Half of that has to be payable within a month. And they kicked him to the curb and said, you are no longer our guy. It appears there was a faction of the Auburn booster universe that wanted to replace Gus Malzahn with his subordinate, defensive coordinator Kevin Steele. Auburn fans became aware of that plan and rejected it as out of hand, much like Tennessee fans rejected Greg Schiano. Now it appears there is a mad scramble on as Auburn attempts to figure out whether or not Kevin Steele is the guy. You would think if Steele were going to be the guy, that they would have announced it in time for him to help with the recruiting class on Wednesday. Instead, it now appears that the Auburn coaching search has turned into a mess. Mario Cristobal just signed an extension in Oregon. Was he a target of Auburn? We don't know. Could they be after Tom Allen at Indiana? We don't know. Could it be Napier down at Louisiana? We don't Neil Brown. All of a sudden, there are a lot of moving parts here. Hugh Freeze hopped in my mentions yesterday in response to an Auburn fan who said they didn't want Hugh Freeze. He said good. And it doesn't sound like Hugh Freeze really was interested in the Auburn job in a big way either, based on potentially his relationship with Gus Malzahn. So, if you are Auburn, you are teetering here in an interesting position because you're paying a ton of money in order for somebody else to come in who may not be as accomplished as Gus Malzahn already was. That's a bit of a mess. Now, I do want to fire back at this idea that's out there that, oh my God, how can athletic departments claim they don't have money and then also simultaneously say they have the ability to pay these buyouts? That's not an honest discussion. There are the typical village idiots in sports media who are writing those pieces. They understand, or at least they should, that boosters are paying the buyouts, right? That boosters pony up the dollars in order for Auburn to move on and hire a new coach. And as a result, It's not coming out of the existing athletic department revenue streams. And so a lot of boosters out there, frankly, are swimming in cash right now because if you're fortunate enough to be rich, the stock market has been on fire this year. Dow's gone through 30,000. S&P 500 keeps hitting new records. I'm not sure that I'll ever give better advice than in March when I told everybody out there, put as much money as you had in reserves into the stock market. If you did that, like I did, then you've made a ton of money. Now, I'm not buy out a coach level rich yet, but I can tell you that the idea that athletic departments are in a different position than their boosters is 100% accurate because there are a lot of people out there that can afford to pay a lot of money. South Carolina with Will Muschamp, Auburn with Gus Malzahn, Arizona with Kevin Sumlin, Illinois with Lovie Smith. All of these jobs have featured people being fired and good options there. Texas was ready to buy out Tom Herman. Michigan was fine with Jim Harbaugh leaving. There's a lot of money out there in college athletics. The athletic departments themselves are struggling because of COVID, but they're going to have a quick return. It'll be a V-shaped recovery for sure for athletic departments. And in the meantime, most of their major boosters have already made big money. But this Auburn search, you guys know I love the coaching carousel. This Auburn search has already become Schiano-like at Tennessee in that they may end up torpedoing Kevin Steele as a defensive coordinator. And if that happens, then Kevin Steele's probably going to end up leaving Auburn because it seems unlikely that they are going to bring in a head coach who's okay with Kevin Steele. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're going to be able to keep him. But if he thought he was going to be the head coach and now it's not going to happen, that sounds a little bit messy. So it hasn't gotten anywhere near the media attention, but Auburn fans have been doing their best in many ways to torpedo this hire of Kevin Steele, their defensive coordinator. So let's pay attention there. Thursday Night Football. Let me give you my pick. I can't remember if I did this off the top or not. You can go make your bets at fanduel.com/Clay. I am on the Raiders, and I like the over. I will be talking about this in a little bit on the drive over here, and it should be a lot of fun. Fox Bet Live, my television show, in about an hour and 15 minutes. We'll be breaking down the final Thursday Night Football game of the year. Encourage you to watch 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Mountain, 2 o'clock Pacific, and we will be underway there. College football playoff analysis. It's interesting. Dan Mullen was asked about a couple of hours ago during the presser leading up to the SEC championship game whether or not he believed his team would deserve to be in the college football playoff if they upset Alabama. And he kind of tiptoed around that answer right now. Certainly he will make that argument if they win that they deserve to be in the playoff. But I do think that's the most challenging situation that could confront the college football playoff committee, who've been taking body blows from everybody this year over their rankings and the lack of logic behind it relative to prior seasons. I've been on the record, and I'll continue to hammer it home. The most likely college football playoff is 11-0 Alabama as your 1 seed. Clemson, 10-1 as your 2 seed. Ohio State, 6-0 as your 3 seed. And in the 4 spot, Notre Dame. Alabama against Notre Dame, Clemson against Ohio State. That's the biggest and the best matchup in the college football playoff universe. But there is some complexity there if Florida were to upset Alabama, and certainly if Northwestern were to win or if Clemson were to lose to Notre Dame. But I feel like it's pretty set in stone at this point that we've got 2 guaranteed playoff teams, Alabama and Notre Dame, and we'll have to see exactly what happens going forward. Speaking of what happens going forward, I have got my gambling picks for you. I just put these up on OutKick, so you can go read them at OutKick if you would like. I think Iowa State +6 is going to cover against Oklahoma. Stat for you. Iowa State 5-0 against the spread, average cover of 16 points since Matt Campbell got to Iowa State and they started playing against Oklahoma. They've done very well. Iowa State has not won a conference title since 1915. I would absolutely love for them to be able to do it today. Fingers crossed, Saturday this year. I would love for Iowa State to win. You should be rooting for Iowa State as well if you like long-suffering fan bases finally being rewarded, particularly this year out of any years. Texas A&M on the road at Tennessee. Tennessee plus 14. Here's the deal. I think that Tennessee, if they just run the football and basically run the same game plan that they had against Auburn, shortens the game, keeps it competitive, puts pressure on A&M like we saw happen with LSU against Florida, and then hopes for a good play down the stretch that might give them a chance to win. I like Tennessee to cover the 14 against A&M. I think this is a steep price. A&M's going to be under a lot of pressure, not just to win, but to run the score up. That's a high bar to try to hurdle. And as a result, I think this game's going to be fairly competitive. Tennessee covers the 14. Ole Miss on the road at LSU. They haven't won in Baton Rouge since 2008. I think that changes this year with Lane Kiffin. I like Ole Miss minus 2.5, and I like the over 78.5 in this game. Ole Miss minus 2.5 at LSU, and the over 78.5. Mizzou minus 1 at Mississippi State. I like Mizzou to get their 6th win. Mississippi State so far this year has only beaten 2 teams, Vanderbilt and LSU in week 1, which feels so long ago back in September. I like Mizzou to get the win. Notre Dame plus 10.5 against Clemson. I feel like I'm the only person out there who is predicting that Notre Dame is going to cover. Everyone seems to think that Clemson is going to destroy them. But Trevor Lawrence being out wasn't the difference in this game. It was the lines of scrimmage where Notre Dame dominated against Clemson. Remember DJ Uiagalelei, or however you pronounce his last name, threw for 430 plus yards. Do we really think Trevor Lawrence is going to pass the ball better than that? I don't, which is why I am on Notre Dame plus 10.5. This one is my must-watch game because of 2 different angles. I think it's the best game of Saturday. Loaded Saturday of college football. Best game, though, Notre Dame plus 10.5 against Clemson. Finally, Alabama minus 17. I just think this Tide offense is too much. There'll be a lot of scoring early. I like the over 74 as well. I think Alabama gets out there and wins 56-28. Those are my 8 college football gambling picks. I'll give you my NFL picks here in a moment. But first, I want to tell you about the setup here in terms of this scenario. My guys at XChair. You see this chair that I'm sitting in, that I've been doing the show in for the last month and change? It's the best possible chair out there. And right now you can get $100 off. Go to xchairclay.com now. That's the letter X, Chair Clay, C-L-A-Y, my name, or call 1-800-1844-4XChair. XChair has a 30-day guarantee of complete comfort. You can finance your purchase as little as $30 a month, and they will hook you up, I'm telling you, in a really, really big way. And let me also tell you, they have dynamic variable lumbar, heat massage therapy, and they are the most productive possible chair you can find. Without this chair, you're selling your body and productivity short. Let me tell you one more time. That is a website you should all be going to, xchairclay.com. That's the letter X, chair, C-L-A-Y, my name.com for $100 off. All right, my NFL picks. The NFL gambling picks have been on absolute fire. College football picks have not been that great. We are 47-31 with the NFL gambling picks, so let me hit them for you here. Bills -6 at Denver. Love the Bills here. Denver's got major issues in their secondary with their health. Josh Allen on fire. We'll get to Josh Allen in a little bit. I like Jacksonville +13 at the Ravens. Gardner Minshew is a difference maker. Now that Mike Glennon is benched, I think that Jacksonville's going to play pretty well. Ravens coming off a big win. Their wide receiving core is out with COVID. Low scoring as well. I like Jacksonville +13. The Patriots on the road against Miami. I like Miami -1.5. Guys, remember, the Patriots typically have not played well in Miami, even with Tom Brady over the years. It's a cold nor'easter weather up in New England right now. I like Miami -1.5. The Lions on the road against the Titans. Their starting center has a fractured throat, which I didn't even know existed. That is not ideal. Matthew Stafford is not healthy. I think both of those guys end up getting held out. I like the Lions -10.5. Seahawks at the Washington football team. I like the under 45 there. And Monday night, Steelers -12.5 at Cincinnati. If you want to roll with the OutKick 6-pack, those picks are up for you right now. If you hop onto OutKick and go to the top stories there, you'll be glad that you did it. All right, Tom Rinaldi has become the latest talent to leave ESPN for Fox. And that's a big addition for Fox Sports, but I think it also symbolizes a larger issue. And I want you to think about this for a long time, or a little time, or no time at all, at least as long as I'm talking about it. It used to be that if you were someone in my shoes, you dreamed of getting a job at ESPN, Fox, CBS, or NBC because that was the sign that you had made it, that you were a legitimate factor and a legitimate force in the industry. And it used to be that if you left ESPN, you had absolutely no hope of being able to be successful after leaving ESPN. In fact, they terrified everybody with the idea that ESPN was the asset and the talent were all interchangeable. And if you ever left, no one would ever care about you anymore. But think about how that storyline has changed. Dan Patrick left. He's thrived. Colin Cowherd left. He's thrived. Bill Simmons left. He's thrived. Skip Bayless left. He's thrived. Aaron Andrews left. She's thrived. Dan Le Batard is going to leave. I think he's going to be fine. My point here in a larger context is ESPN doesn't make stars anymore. They've lost that ability to create homegrown stars. In fact, the people that they have tried to turn into stars have mostly fallen on their faces or stayed about as famous as they already were. The places where you can become wildly influential now are places like OutKick, Barstool, The Daily Wire, independent sites. Look at Joe Rogan. Independent sites that provide authenticity as opposed to top-down leadership. Not to say you can't be successful at big companies. You can. I do a television show with a big company. But most of my success is tied to OutKick, not tied to places where I am going outside of OutKick. The reason why they want me on radio is OutKick. The reason why they want me on television is OutKick. This is an important lesson about the empowering of the individual and the lack of power that larger entities now provide, at least in the world of sports. And it's also an instructive lesson for anybody out there. I get asked all the time, hey, I want to get into sports. What should I do? And my answer is always right. Right. Because it's the one talent that transcends all disciplines. If you can write, you might well be able to do radio. You might well be able to do television. There's a reason why people can go from writing to radio to television, because it's about organizing your thoughts and making arguments. There's a reason that very few people go television to radio to writing. Television is the easiest of the three mediums. It's cosmetic, it's theater in some ways, so it's a different skill set, but it's an easier skill set to master than radio, frankly, than what I'm doing right now on Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube. This is harder than much of television is because I got no script and I've got nobody helping me with anything. Same thing true of radio. No script, no safety net. And writing is even the hardest because it's just you sitting in front of a blank screen blinking at you, and you have to make sense of the world with nothing else there except your thoughts. So, don't be afraid of doing it on your own. And don't be afraid if the option to go to a big place isn't there. You don't need that legitimacy anymore. In fact, in many ways, it might detract from your ability to be your legitimate self, because larger corporate structures are designed to try to, in many ways, snuff out individuality because it threatens the larger business structure. It's just an interesting thought. I would like for you guys to contemplate. Forever out there, the idea was, if you do anything different, if you leave ESPN, you'll have no success. There are a ton of people having way more success. Dan Patrick, Colin Cowherd, Skip Bayless, Bill Simmons, soon to be Dan Le Batard, Aaron Andrews. There are a lot of people who have left ESPN and been way more successful there than they were at ESPN. I think Tom Rinaldi is probably the next version of that. Finally, speaking of not very intelligent and being protected by ESPN, how about Domonique Foxworth? Guy says that he roots for Josh Allen to fail because Josh Allen supporters have, wait for it, American flags. And they have dog pictures in their social media avatars. And so as a result, he doesn't want Josh Allen to succeed. He came out and said, guys, you took him out of context. How dare you listen to his actual words and take him into account for them? No. You took his words out of context. ESPN continues to say nothing. They continue to allow Domonique Foxworth to get away with something that nobody else would be able to get away with if they said it about Lamar Jackson. I have heard from a ton of people at ESPN. All of them said they're asking the same questions internally. If someone had said they rooted against Lamar Jackson because of the people who root for him, they would be fired within 5 minutes. So why can Domonique Foxworth say the same thing about Josh Allen and almost no one pays attention other than OutKick? It's because there's a crazy double standard. And that double standard flies in direct contravention to everything that we believe about sports. The great thing about sports is it doesn't matter who you are, who you like, what color you are, who you sleep with, what religion you are, what ethnicity you embrace. Everybody's held to the same standard. Everybody has to play by the same set of rules. Sports apply the same rules to everyone. That's why in an era of totally artificiality, when everything is artifice, sports retains that meritocratic realm because everybody, regardless of their background, regardless of their identity, regardless of their sexual interest, everybody's held to the same standard. Are you better than the other guy or the other girl? It's pure, it's real. Why can't we talk about sports the same way? Why can't the standards be the exact same regardless of who you are? What Domonique Foxworth said was stupid and wrong. I don't believe in cancel culture. I don't believe in identity politics, but I do believe in one standard of rules for everyone: white, black, Asian, Hispanic, gay, straight, religious, not religious. Whatever you are, you should have the same rules applied, just like in sports. Sports should be making society more like it as opposed to sports becoming more like society. And as a result, Domonique Foxworth made idiotic comments. He should be lit up for them. I don't believe anybody should be fired for comments like these, but the standard that's applied for him should be the exact same as the standard that applies if a white guy working at ESPN had said that he roots against Lamar Jackson because of what the followers of Lamar Jackson, in his mind, believe. Should be the exact same standard. I appreciate all of you. My name is Clay Travis. This is OutKick the Show. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. Go get some Dixie Vodka, raise a glass for him, get your XChair, and more importantly, $5. Wager $5 and you can win $75 if Justin Herbert throws a touchdown pass tonight. Fanduel.com/Clay. This has been OutKick the Show. I'm hopping an airplane flight tomorrow. No show tomorrow. I appreciate all of you. Be ready in the weekend for all those great games. Go check out the gambling picks at OutKick.com, and I will see you guys in a few days. Happy early holiday weekend.